What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. We are continuing with schedule preview and predictions for the 2021 college football season. And today, we're going to be talking about the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Hey, if you guys are a Rutgers fan or you like college football just as much as me, please do leave a like on this video. You can also hit the subscribe button down below. The channel is almost doubled in the amount of subscribers we have, so thank you guys so much. Continue to hit that subscribe button. You can ring the bell as well so you notify when I upload, so you can join Tailgate Nation. Haven't said that in a while, right? Share the video as well, because just like liking helps push the video out to as many people as possible. You can also leave a comment down below telling me your thoughts on the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. The one thing I ask is just that you be kind to everyone, be mindful of what you say. So without further ado, let's talk about Rutgers in 2021. They finally got their head coach back, right? Greg Schiano back coaching this Rutgers Scarlet Knights team, and it seemed to work out for the better last year, right? Rutgers made some huge improvements, and I say huge in terms of what Rutgers was expecting, right? Still, Rutgers was not expecting much with Greg Schiano back at the helm, maybe to win a game or two with an all Big Ten slate. Rutgers did a lot better than people thought, and I think this year, Rutgers is a team that not necessarily people aren't talking enough about, but I think Rutgers still may be a team that is a little bit undervalued, especially when you look at what they're losing. They're not losing too much. So all these guys on here gave Rutgers at least something in the statistical standpoint when they played at Rutgers. So Arturo Satowski, been talking about the transfer portal for a couple of years, finally enters it and transfers over to Illinois. So he is gone off of the team this year, was the backup to Noah Vedral. Now they're going to have to get another backup there at Rutgers, but there are a lot of names behind Noah Vedral. Kayron Adams. I thought Kayron Adams not necessarily was an underrated running back, but I just feel like could have been used more. Really could have been used more as a player here at Rutgers. He's a very versatile player. I believe he is transferring out to an FCS school, junior college, something like that. But Kayron Adams, I wish him the best of luck. I really did like him. Of course, wasn't going to be that starter at Rutgers behind a guy like Isaiah Pacheco, but it's still a solid option nonetheless. Paul Woods, they got a lot of wide receivers transferring out. Paul Woods was the only one that gave him some sort of stats over the past couple of years. Good for about 9-10 catches a year. Not really more than that. Maybe he can emerge when he's at a different school. But Paul Woods, nonetheless, leaving that wide receiver core. Michael Duamfor. This is a huge loss on the defensive side. Defensive lineman Michael Duamfor signed as a rookie free agent in the NFL. Ilorm Lumor transferred out, a defensive lineman as well. Jarrett Paul, Tim Barrow, a couple of defensive backs. They're not necessarily the biggest losses, but still gave Rutgers some production. No, the big loss in the secondary is Brendan White. Also a free agent rookie that signed in the NFL. I believe is even on the same team as Duamfor, so that'll work out really well for whatever team that signed them. But hey, it's not about what you lost, it's about what you have. I've mentioned his name already before. Noah Vedral coming back at quarterback. Now, he's, in my opinion, not a top 50 quarterback by any means, but when he plays well, he's a solid option, can throw the football, can run the football. And with the group of wide receivers that he has, which we'll talk about in a little bit, Noah Vedral could have a pretty good season this year, as could Isaiah Pacheco. Hasn't really quite reached that 1,000-yard mark yet. In fact, hasn't even been particularly close. This year, I feel like could be Isaiah Pacheco's biggest season. Maybe he reaches 1,000 yards. I think maybe at the very least he'll be at the very most he'll be just short. But I do think, statistically speaking, this is going to be the best year for Isaiah Pacheco. When you look at the wide receivers, lots of talent coming back. Bo Melton should be that number one guy. Shameen Jones, the number 2 pass catcher last year, behind, of course, Bo Melton, and Aaron Cruikshank, the number 3, of course, behind Jones and Melton, coming back as well. And then they got a transfer. So a lot of wide receivers that were on the bench that, could have slotted in if someone got hurt. Well, they're getting Joshua Youngblood, who's a transfer over from Kansas State. How does Rutgers play him this year, right? Didn't really play a whole lot with the Wildcats, but in my opinion, is still a solid player. So how do they slot him in? Do they use him in the slot? Is he kind of a guy that comes up off the bench? Do you fill him in with a big role right away? It'll be interesting to see what Rutgers does with that game. On the defensive side, lots coming back. Julius Turner, in my opinion, is the best defensive lineman they have coming back. Very impactful player. Olakunle Fadukasi. I'm sorry if I pronounce his name wrong, but Fadukasi last year had 101 tackles in a shortened Big Ten season, which is absolutely phenomenal. That's a huge win for Rutgers to have him coming back. In the secondary, you have Christian Isian. Again, sorry if I pronounced names wrong. He led the team last year in interceptions, and Avery Young, who I think is going to be the best player in the secondary with Brendan White gone for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. Here's the schedule for Rutgers. They were 3-6 in 2020. So again, right, that's a huge improvement from the past year, or from past years, especially considering they played an all Big Ten schedule. So of course, 3-6 in the conference. They were 4th in the Big Ten East, but because they were 3 games under 500, didn't play in a bowl game. Hey, you guys know how this works. I'm talking about some games more than others because they're more interesting the matchups. They're more interesting matchups to me, So if the day gets highlighted in green, it's a win. If it gets highlighted in red, it is a loss. Without further ado, let's talk about Rutgers in 2021. Temple is the first game on the schedule. It was originally scheduled to play on a Saturday. Now it will be played on a Thursday. Anthony Russo, the quarterback that was at Temple, now has transferred over to a team we're going to talk about later in the video, in the Michigan State Spartans. For Temple, don't really see them doing anything special last year. Not necessarily vibing for one of the worst teams in the nation, but I don't think they're a bowl game team, right? Especially with Anthony Russo gone. And they're losing a lot of other pieces to Rutgers as well. There's an offensive lineman coming in, another defensive lineman coming in. Temple is losing a lot to this Rutgers team. So Rutgers should be able to beat Temple, and the former players that played for the Owls will get a nice kick out of that win. This could be a closer game than a lot of people think. But Syracuse has been said to be one of the worst teams in the ACC this year. I do agree with that statement. I don't think Syracuse is going to be all that great. There are some good individual players at Syracuse, but a lot of those are leaving to the NFL draft. They got a couple defensive backs leaving for the NFL. Yes, their starting quarterback is back, but he's not that great. But we've talked about home field advantage, right? Home field advantage could play a bigger role than it ever has in the college football scheme. We could see the highest home winning percentage that we've ever seen. I am still going to give this win here to the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. The more talented team, I think, with those two defensive backs gone for Syracuse, this wide receiver group for Rutgers is going to flourish, going to have a good game here against the Syracuse Orange. Rutgers starts out 2-0. Now, this game here against Delaware, not going to be a pushover. Delaware considered the budget Michigan, just kind of like a joke. If you see their helmets, it's the same as Michigan, same color scheme. Well, a little bit different, of course, but all joking aside, Delaware is a very good FCS team. If you watch the FCS season at all this year in the spring, Delaware was a contender, and they played pretty solidly. So Rutgers are clearly going to be favored in the game. But if I were a betting man, which I'm not, but if I were a betting man, I'd probably go ahead and say that Delaware covers the spread on this game. You're thinking the spread is what, maybe 20 points for this game here? I'm thinking maybe Delaware can keep it a little closer than that. I think Delaware could hang around for a little bit in this game. But in the end, Rutgers just has that D1 talent, right? Rutgers has the D1 talent. They have the better options all over the field. And I think ultimately they win this game. But this is not going to be a pushover. Delaware, watch out for this game. I don't think Delaware will necessarily win the game, but they could keep it pretty close before Rutgers gets in the Big Ten play. So I have them starting out 3-0. All you got to do is do the same thing you did last year, right? Win 3 games in the Big Ten. My opinion, that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, considering they do play in one of the best divisions in all of college football. That this year, in my opinion, is only going to get better than what it was last year. Starts off with the Michigan Wolverines, a team that's going to get better this year. We know that, but how much better do they get? Regardless, this game is being played in the Big House, being played at Michigan Stadium. I don't think Rutgers is going to be able to compete with Michigan in the Big House. If this game was in Piscataway, if it was in New Jersey, maybe I would consider otherwise. You look last year, it was a triple overtime game in Piscataway that Michigan was able to squeak out. I think Michigan beats Rutgers again this year. Michigan is going to improve a lot this year. I think Michigan is going to be a team not necessarily to watch out for, but a team that is going to be very competitive this year in the Michigan Wolverines. I think Rutgers can hang around for a little bit, but I think the noise, the crowd at the Big House, going to be too much for the Scarlet Knights. Ohio State is up next. So when you go back and you watch that game last year, Rutgers it was kind of a combination of Rutgers playing some really good football, pulling some plays out of the bag of tricks, and then Ohio State not playing super well. Ohio State could still end up having troubles on the defensive side of the ball this year. In my opinion, as an Ohio State fan, especially in that linebacking group, it's going to be young and experienced, but there are some high expectations for them. The defensive backs, the secondary, I'm not too worried about, for the factor that Shaun Wade was playing in a new position last year, and now they're going to have everyone playing in positions that they got recruited to play. So for Ohio State, I think that defensive back group is going to improve. How good is that linebacker group, though? I think Rutgers is going to take advantage of stuff that they took advantage of last year. But, I mean, come on, it's Ohio State, right? It's Ohio State's conference to lose until someone proves us otherwise, right? Ohio State going to win this game. Rutgers might be able to hang 27 points on them again. We'll see with the game being in Piscataway, but I still think Ohio State wins. They get another game in Piscataway against the Michigan State Spartans. So we'll mention them a little briefly, right? Anthony Russo coming in at quarterback. But how much does that fix the Michigan State? In my opinion, not really all that much. Michigan State, when they played this Rutgers team last year, yes, 7 turnovers in the game. That just can't happen. With the game being played in Piscataway, I think Rutgers gets their first Big Ten win of the season. I think they beat the Michigan State Spartans and are now 2 wins away from going bowling. Now they get to play their 3 opponents from the Big Ten West. First game against Northwestern on the road. Northwestern is losing a lot of production. So Northwestern is a team you could go in either direction with. I'm going in the direction leaning towards that Northwestern is going to be a better team than their returning production number states. They're diving into the transfer portal. They're grabbing some transfers. They're getting them over. One of them, a quarterback, Ryan Hilinski, former quarterback at South Carolina. He's okay. Again, doesn't necessarily fix all their problems. On the defensive side, there are still some solid players coming back for Northwestern. And with this game being on the road for the Scarlet Knights, I think Rutgers can maybe keep it close. But in the end, I do see Northwestern pulling this game out before the bye week. So you're 4-3 before your bye week. I think you're feeling pretty good if you're a Rutgers fan, but the schedule after the bye week is a lot tougher than the schedule before the bye week. And you have Ohio State before. Yeah, that shows you how hard back half of the schedule is. So this is a huge swing game coming out of the bye week. A road game in Champaign against the Illinois Fighting Illini. I think Illinois is going to be a lot better than people are talking about this year. Look, Illinois, right? A team this year that, well, you know what style of football they're going to play, right? With Brett Bielema coming back at head coach and with how successfully Illinois stat-wise seemed to run the football last year, you know they're going to play some smash mouth football. And I think Illinois' rushing attacks could prove statistically to be one of the best in all of the Big Ten. They got Epstein, they got Brown, some really nice backs there for Illinois. I think this is going to be a close game, and this game could definitely decide whether or not Rutgers ends up making a bowl game. And I got to go with the home team here. I am picking Illinois to win this game. I think it's going to be an offensive showdown. In the end, this game might go into overtime, might come down to the final seconds, but I have Illinois winning this one in Champaign. 3 very hard games next up on the schedule for Rutgers. A home game against Wisconsin. I see a lot of people that are very high on Wisconsin, even have them going undefeated. I don't necessarily think Wisconsin's going to go undefeated, as Graham Mertz has to continue to improve, but the talent is there for Wisconsin, right? I don't think Rutgers is going to be able to win this one. Aaron Cruikshank playing his former team. Watch out for Aaron Cruikshank, could have a big game here in this one, but overall, I don't see Rutgers necessarily winning this game. Maybe could keep it closer than expected, but Wisconsin should prove to be victorious. And then 2 very hard road games against opponents in the Big Ten East, and I think they lose both of them. Yeah, so a loss here to Indiana. Look, Indiana, in my opinion, is still getting a little bit underrated this year. When you look at all they have coming back, they're also diving into the transfer portal, pulling some people in from there. They got a replacement for Stevie Scott. They're bolstering that defensive line. I think Indiana is going to be just fine. Now, again, it's a harder schedule than they played last year, but I don't see Indiana losing this game here to Rutgers. I also don't see Penn State losing to Rutgers while playing in Happy Valley. Look, Penn State, we know, is going to rebound in a big way this year. They got a lot of nice talent coming in, a lot of nice talent coming back. I don't think Rutgers can beat this game either. So this is the game here that Rutgers fans might be looking at and not really sure what to think about it. So we know Maryland is going to score points this year, right? But the problem is Maryland scores those points in the beginning of the season. When you look in past years, the pattern is they score a lot of points in the beginning and then not a lot towards the end. That could potentially change this year. This could be a very explosive offense for the Maryland Terrapins. A lot of people say they're ready to come out. This is going to be Maryland's coming out party. But I think Rutgers is going to win this game with the hope that there aren't enough 6-6 teams, which is what they're going to have to rely on, because I have the Rutgers Scarlet Knights going 5-7. Again, that game against Maryland, I think it's going to be very close, a very entertaining game to watch. It's going to come down to whichever defense can make the bigger stops, right? And I think especially with the home crowd behind them, Rutgers will win the game, improving them to 5-7. So again, that's another step in the right direction. I don't think people are necessarily expecting Rutgers to make a bowl game this year, although that's all what the talk is. I surely am not expecting this Rutgers team to make a bowl game this year. I expect them to be a little more competitive, right? They should win their 3 non-conference games and then just duplicate what they did last year in the Big Ten, right? Going 3 for 6. In my opinion, though, they have to win a game on the road, because when you look at their home games in the Big Ten, Ohio State, Michigan State, Wisconsin, and Maryland, I have them winning 2 of those. They have to win a game on the road in the Big Ten if Rutgers is going to make a bowl game. In my opinion, they either have to beat Northwestern or Illinois or potentially both. But Rutgers maybe has to have that hope that there are not enough 6-6 teams, albeit best case scenario is 7-5. Again, the other 2 wins, I just talked about them, Northwestern, Illinois, I would tack on there as well. Worst case, I could see 3-9. And again, I could see them going 0-9 in the Big Ten. And then we're talking about Rutgers all again was, okay, is Rutgers actually getting better or are they not? That's going to be it for my preview prediction for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. I have them going 5-7, potentially making a bowl game if there are not enough 6-6 teams. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment as well what you think about the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. And tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the UCF Knights. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. UCF is up tomorrow. Goodbye.